was a cold and stormy night, the wind howling outside the old Victorian mansion. The McAllister family had left for a week-long vacation, leaving their teenage daughter, Emily, home alone for the first time. The old house creaked and groaned with every gust of wind, and the eerie silence unsettled her. Emily tried to distract herself by watching a movie, but the flickering lights and strange shadows only added to her anxiety. She decided to call her best friend, Sarah, to keep her company on the phone. However, Sarah's voice sounded distant and distorted, like an eerie echo. Emily shook it off, thinking it was just her imagination. As the night wore on, the atmosphere inside the house grew more ominous. Every creak and rustle seemed to be a lurking presence, and Emily couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The phone line crackled, and Sarah's voice became eerier with each passing moment. Emily decided to end the call, convinced that the storm was interfering with the signal. Suddenly, the power went out, plunging the house into complete darkness. Emily's heart raced as she fumbled for her phone's flashlight. In the dim light, she thought she saw a shadow move at the corner of her eye. She turned around, but there was nothing there. Fear gripped her, and she tried to remind herself that it was just her nerves playing tricks on her. Struggling to calm herself, Emily went around the house, checking all the doors and windows to make sure they were locked. As she entered the dark, gloomy basement, she heard faint whispers, and the feeling of being watched intensified. She hurriedly closed the door and tried to put the disturbing sounds out of her mind. Back in the living room, Emily noticed a strange, old photo album on the coffee table. She opened it and found black and white pictures of the mansion from long ago. As she flipped through the pages, she noticed a recurring figure in the background of several photos, a pale, gaunt woman with hollow eyes. The photos were accompanied by chilling inscriptions, speaking of tragedy and loss. Feeling an inexplicable connection to the house's history, Emily decided to investigate further. She searched the attic, where she discovered an old diary hidden away in a dusty trunk. The diary belonged to a woman named Eleanor, who had lived in the mansion centuries ago. Her entries spoke of dark rituals and unexplainable occurrences within the house. As she read, Emily became increasingly disturbed. The entries hinted at a malevolent presence that haunted the mansion, feeding off the fear and sorrow of its inhabitants. Eleanor had tried to perform a ritual to banish the entity, but it only seemed to anger it, leading to unspeakable consequences. As the storm raged outside, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone in the house. She heard footsteps in the hallway and strange whispers echoing through the walls. The phone rang again, but when she answered, there was nothing but static on the line. The eerie occurrences intensified, and she realized that whatever presence lingered in the mansion was trying to communicate with her. Terrified, Emily barricaded herself in her bedroom, desperately trying to call for help, but her phone's signal was mysteriously jammed. She felt trapped, isolated from the outside world, and at the mercy of an unknown force. In the darkness, she heard a haunting melody, faint but unmistakable, as if a music box were playing from somewhere within the house. The haunting tune grew louder, enveloping her senses and sending shivers down her spine. Emily could feel the malevolence creeping closer, and she knew she had to confront the entity haunting the mansion. Summoning all her courage, Emily ventured out of her room and followed the eerie melody. The haunting music led her to the attic, where she found the old music box from the photos. As she approached, the lid slammed shut, and the tune stopped abruptly. The air grew heavy, and Emily felt an overwhelming presence surrounding her. She remembered the diary and the ritual described within it. Desperate for a solution, Emily attempted to repeat the banishment ritual to rid the house of the malevolent entity. Her heart pounded as she recited the incantation, her voice trembling with fear. As she finished the last line, the house shook violently, and a cold wind swept through the attic. The music box sprang open, and the pale, gaunt woman from the photos materialized before her. Emily stood her ground, determined to face the entity head-on. With a hollow voice, the ghostly figure revealed her name to be Eleanor and spoke of her tragic past, bound to the mansion by dark forces beyond her control. Emily empathized with her sorrow but knew that she had to break the curse and free both Eleanor's spirit and herself from the malevolent entity's clutches. Gathering every ounce of bravery, Emily confronted the malevolent presence. She pleaded for it to release both Eleanor and herself from its grip. In a chilling voice, the entity spoke directly into her mind, tormenting her with memories of her deepest fears and insecurities. But Emily refused to succumb to fear. She drew strength from the love for her family, from the courage to face the unknown, and from the belief that goodness could triumph over evil. With a final burst of determination, she recited the incantation once more, this time with unwavering confidence. The mansion trembled, and a blinding light engulfed the room. The malevolent presence screamed in anguish as it was banished from the house. Eleanor's spirit thanked Emily for setting her free, and together, they watched as the entity dissipated into nothingness. As the storm subsided, the house fell silent once more. Emily felt a deep sense of peace, knowing she had overcome the darkness that had plagued the mansion for so long. She closed the diary, returned the music box to its rightful place, and felt a renewed sense of courage and strength within herself. In the days that followed, the house seemed to come alive with newfound warmth and comfort. Emily knew that she would carry the memories of that eerie night with her forever, but she also knew that she had faced her deepest fears and emerged stronger than ever. The McAllister family returned home, unaware of the haunting experience Emily had endured. She decided to keep the terrifying events to herself, knowing that some stories are best left untold. But whenever she heard a faint whisper or felt a chill down her spine, she couldn't help but wonder if the entity still lingered somewhere in the shadows, waiting to find a new victim to torment. And so, the old mansion stood in silence once again, its dark secrets buried deep within its walls, waiting for the next soul brave enough to call it home alone. In the quiet suburbs of an old town, nestled amongst tall trees, there stood a house that had been abandoned for years. The locals whispered tales of eerie occurrences that happened within its walls. They spoke of strange shadows that danced on the windows, odd noises that echoed in the night, and an unsettling aura that surrounded the place. One gloomy evening, a young woman named Emily found herself alone at home. Her parents had left for a weekend getaway, and she was entrusted to take care of the house and their faithful dog, Max. Emily had heard the rumors about the abandoned house but dismissed them as mere superstitions. As the night drew closer, the wind howled outside, making the house creak and groan. Emily tried to shake off the eerie feeling as she played board games with Max, trying to pass the time. However, each passing moment seemed to intensify the unsettling atmosphere. As the clock struck midnight, strange occurrences began. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Max growled at unseen figures, his hackles raised. Emily tried to reassure herself, attributing it all to her overactive imagination. But then, she heard footsteps upstairs. Panic swept through her as she realized she was the only living being in the house, or so she thought. She took a deep breath and mustered her courage to investigate, taking Max with her. As they climbed the creaky stairs, the footsteps grew louder. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she pushed open the door to the abandoned room. To her horror, she saw a pair of glowing eyes staring back at her from the darkness. Frozen in fear, she couldn't move as the sinister figure emerged from the shadows. It was a pale, gaunt figure with hollow eyes and tattered clothes. The apparition seemed to float towards her, emanating an icy chill that made her shiver. In a whispering voice, the ghostly figure recounted a tragic tale of a family that once lived in the house. Their lives were cut short by a mysterious and violent end, leaving behind a restless spirit seeking revenge. Emily's fear turned to empathy as she listened to the ghost's tale. She realized that this spirit was not malevolent but trapped and tormented by its own sorrow. Determined to help, Emily asked what she could do to release the spirit from its haunting past. The ghost revealed that hidden beneath the floorboards of the house lay an old diary that contained the truth behind the tragedy. It held the key to the spirit's redemption and liberation. With Max's loyal companionship, Emily braved the dark corners of the abandoned house, searching for the elusive diary. Each step brought them closer to the truth, but it also intensified the chilling presence around them. Finally, they discovered the hidden diary, covered in dust and cobwebs. As Emily flipped through its pages, she learned about the tragic fate of the family that once lived there. They were victims of a dreadful crime, and their restless spirits were bound to the house, seeking justice and closure. Emily vowed to right the wrongs of the past and bring peace to the tormented souls. She sought the help of a local historian who revealed the identity of the culprit responsible for the heinous act. Armed with the truth, she performed a ritual to cleanse the house of its negative energy and release the spirits from their haunting prison. With a blinding flash of light, the spirits were finally free, ascending to the afterlife. The abandoned house now felt peaceful, and Emily's home felt like a sanctuary once again. The experience changed Emily forever. She became an advocate for historical preservation and started sharing the story of the abandoned house to raise awareness about its haunted past. People who once feared the house now visited to pay their respects to the souls that once dwelled within its walls. From that night on, Emily was never truly home alone. The spirits of the past watched over her, protecting her from harm and guiding her towards a life of purpose and courage. And as for Max, he continued to be her loyal companion, a guardian of the secrets they shared. Remember, even in the quietest of moments, darkness may lurk in the corners of our homes. But with bravery, empathy, and the power of truth, we can confront our fears and turn a haunted house into a place of hope and healing. In the eerie silence of a dark and stormy night, Sarah found herself home alone while her parents were away on a weekend trip. The house, an ancient and creaky mansion with a long history, stood ominously against the howling wind. Thunder rumbled in the distance as the rain lashed against the windows, casting eerie shadows on the walls. As the hours passed, Sarah's unease grew, and she tried to distract herself by watching a horror movie. The flickering images on the screen heightened her anxiety, and she regretted her choice instantly. She turned off the TV, seeking refuge in her room. Yet, no matter how much she tried to convince herself otherwise, she couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. In her bedroom, Sarah heard strange noises echoing through the corridors. Each creak of the floorboards felt like an approaching step, and every gust of wind seemed to carry a whisper of unknown origins. Her heart raced, and she tried to convince herself that it was just her imagination playing tricks. Feeling a sense of unease, Sarah grabbed her phone and tried calling her best friend, Amy, for some reassurance. But as she dialed the number, there was only an eerie static on the line. The strange interference sent shivers down her spine, and she quickly hung up, convinced that something wasn't right. Trying to shake off the fear, Sarah decided to investigate the mysterious noises. Armed with a flashlight, she ventured downstairs, each step echoing through the empty house. The shadows seemed to dance around her, and she felt a presence lurking in every corner. As she made her way through the dark hallways, Sarah noticed a faint light flickering in the old study room. Curiosity mixed with dread pushed her to explore further. Upon entering the room, she gasped in horror at the sight before her. A dusty old photograph lay on the floor, depicting a family from a bygone era, their eyes seemingly following her every move. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her, causing Sarah to jump in terror. Panic set in as she tried to open it but found it locked from the outside. Trapped, she searched for another way out but found all the windows sealed shut. As Sarah's fear escalated, the supernatural events intensified. Unsettling whispers echoed through the walls, and objects moved on their own. Her breath quickened as she felt a cold hand brush against her cheek, yet there was no one in sight. In a desperate attempt to escape, Sarah retreated to the attic, hoping to find a way out through the window there. But the attic was no refuge. It was filled with eerie relics and strange symbols etched on the walls. A sense of doom enveloped her, and she knew that she was not alone. As the night dragged on, the malevolent presence in the house grew stronger, feeding on Sarah's fear. It manifested into chilling apparitions, whispering dark secrets from the past. Time seemed to stand still, and Sarah felt trapped in a nightmarish reality. In a moment of desperation, Sarah remembered an old legend her grandmother had once told her. The mansion was rumored to be haunted by a vengeful spirit seeking revenge for a long-forgotten injustice. The only way to appease the spirit and break the curse was to confront the past and uncover the truth. Summoning all her courage, Sarah began to research the mansion's history. Through dusty old books and journals, she uncovered a harrowing tale of betrayal and tragedy that had plagued the house for centuries. Determined to break the curse, she resolved to confront the vengeful spirit and put its restless soul to rest. In a chilling showdown, Sarah faced the malevolent presence, demanding answers and forgiveness. The room trembled with fury as the spirit confronted her, but in the end, Sarah's unwavering determination and compassion prevailed. The truth was revealed, and the spirit's rage began to subside. With the curse broken, the mansion fell silent once more. The supernatural occurrences ceased, and Sarah felt a newfound sense of peace. As the first rays of dawn broke through the dark clouds, her parents returned, finding their daughter safe but weary. Sarah never forgot the horrors of that fateful night, but she also learned the power of courage, empathy, and facing the truth. From then on, the mansion's history became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows and the strength one can find in the face of the unknown. And so, the haunted Home Alone experience became a tale whispered among the townsfolk, a legend that would haunt their dreams for generations to come.